So with Rurouni Kenshin Season 2, Episode 12, for some reason, I thought the animation in this episode was incredibly well done. Even though there's no fight scenes or choreography or anything like that going on, maybe it's more of the directorial choices, like Aoshi's eye dissolving into the moon, or the way that they animated that sequence with the conversation between Aoshi and Okina in that populated area of Kyoto. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like the animation was on fire in this episode, so in a good way. So that looked really great to me. This episode focuses on two major things. The first half of the episode continues where we left off, where Kenshin is face-to-face once again with his master, Sejiro Hiko, and of course, Misao, Kaoru, and Yahiko show up. And the second half of the episode kind of reverts back to see what Aoshi has been doing. He has made his way to Kyoto and has sort of formed an alliance with Shishio. So one thing I think is pretty powerful about the beginning here is when Kenshin is face-to-face with Kaoru once again, because as I was saying last week, you know, Kaoru is the only person that he said goodbye to. He obviously cares for her a great deal, and on the flip side, the whole reason that Kaoru is here is because she loves Kenshin and she traveled this entire way to see him, but once she saw him, she wasn't really sure what she was going to do. Was she going to scold him? Was she going to cry? Was she going to say, I'm going to fight alongside you? There's so many different directions it could have gone, but when they're face to face with one another, I kind of love how both of them don't really know what to say, because the way that they left things, you know, it's not like they were together as a couple, so it wasn't exactly a breakup, but it also wasn't exactly like, you know, this thing like, oh, don't worry, I'll be back someday sort of thing. It was like, no, I am going to wander once again. I'm going to face this alone. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for, you know, being with me for this time. There is a great moment where Kaoru is able to say, are you upset with me that I'm here? And Kenshin honestly says, you know, half of me is, but the other half of me is kind of relieved by it. And I've always really loved that moment, because it sort of proves that as much as Kenshin wants to take on the world by himself, and as much as he wants to push people away, these people aren't leaving him. He's left a lasting impression on all their lives, and even when he goes to get the water, he thinks to himself, well, if Kaoru and Yahiko are here, that means Sanosuke is probably on his way also, and he's right. None of these people are going to let Kenshin face this alone as much as he wants to. He is not the same person he once was. And I think that time and time again, situations prove that. And it shows that the impact of the person that he is now is just as strong or not stronger than the impact that he left as the Batosai. We also learned that Sejiro Hiko is in his 40s, but still looks pretty good for his age, just like Kenshin does. It also is really funny because that means that Hiko would have been in his like early to mid 20s when he was training Kenshin, somewhere around there. And in the flashbacks that we will get coming up, he's going to look exactly the same. So just goes to show you, if you train really hard and stay in shape, it's a good way to face off old age. So keep that in mind. Yes, Hiko does agree to teach Kenshin the final techniques of the Hita Mitsurugi. So we are going to have some training episodes coming up, and it's going to be an isolated thing. So Kaoru, Yahiko, and Misao, they're not going to stay there. So they start to head back, and this is where we get one of the big revelations for both sides of these characters, is that up until this point, Yahiko and Misao, or Yahiko and Kaoru, did not know that Misao was associated with the Oniwaban group. And that's where the big kind of twist and crux of this episode comes into play, is that as they are walking back, they're like, oh yeah, there's something we forgot to tell Kenshin. What was it? It's that Aoshi is in Kyoto, or coming to Kyoto. And as soon as Misao hears that, she's like, what? But this version is being more faithful to the manga, so it's sticking with that. Although, because of that, I always thought it would have made more sense for Yahiko to tell her what happened as opposed to Kaoru, since Kaoru wasn't actually there in this version. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The point is, this is where Misao finds out what happened to everybody in the Oniwaban, because up until this point, Kenshin has refused to tell her, and here it's all laid out in the line. So she's going to learn that Aoshi and everybody was working for this corrupt businessman. She's going to learn about the battle with Kenshin. She's going to learn about the Gatling gun and how everybody was killed except for Aoshi himself. She is in love with Aoshi, so she will be happy to know that he is still alive. However, Aoshi has since resolved himself to a life of isolation and a pursuit of the death of Kenshin in order to bring some kind of value or catharsis to the name of the Oniwaban, to put some respect on the graves of his fallen comrades. He's basically lost himself. You know, that's the whole arc that Aoshi is going through right now, is he is so obsessed with not revenge. It's not revenge per se. It's so that he can bring some kind of honor to his fallen comrades, because the Oniwaban were always kind of pushed to the shadows. Nobody really knows about the extent of what they could do, and they never really had a chance to live any kind of life outside of what their particular skill set was. So even though Aoshi himself probably could have had a life outside of that, he wasn't going to let go of his group of comrades. So he was extremely loyal to them to the bitter end. And of course, all of them end up dying. And so since then, he has pretty much vowed that I'm going to bring honor to the name of the Oniwaban, of my comrades that died. And he views the best way to do this is to defeat Kenshin, is to kill Kenshin. Obviously, this makes no sense in the mind of a sane person, but in the mind of somebody that has lost those that are most precious to him, this is the only answer he can come up with. And I always said the cool thing about Aoshi during this arc is that he's kind of a wild card, because you have Kenshin and his group that are, I guess, our main protagonists, you could say. And then, of course, you have Shishio and the Ten Swords as our main antagonists. But then you have Aoshi, who is just this singular unit that has his own particular agenda that is just kind of thrown into the mix of everybody. And he has ties and associations to the Oniwaban, to Misao and Okina and all those characters. He has ties with Kenshin because of the history and that he's out for Kenshin. And now he's going to have ties with Shishio because they have the intel and information to give him what he wants, and he does agree to it. But I like how the entire time there's this sort of mind game going on between him and Shishio, because Aoshi is like, I don't give a shit about Shishio. Like, I don't care what he's doing. I don't care about his agenda. I don't care what he wants. I am just here for a means to an end to give me the location of Kenshin. But it's also a testament to Shishio's confidence, because he really doesn't mind that Aoshi is going to take the resources for a little bit and try to fight Kenshin. It kind of brings this chaos and disaster, within the Oniwaban and within the group with Okina and everything, that he just kind of enjoys. And I like that about Shishio, because he really doesn't view any of this stuff as a particular threat. It's all just kind of entertainment that are stepping stones on the way to his ultimate goal. And so I like the differences between I like the dynamic between both of these characters, where their mindset is right now, and how they can kind of get value and use out of each other momentarily. As you'll find out coming up too, like, Shishio doesn't even care if people within his alliance even like him or not. It's like, it's all just a means to an end, and he has the strength, the confidence, the resources to get everything done that he wants to. So he really has no fear, and that makes him an extremely scary antagonist, because it's almost as if it doesn't matter what you want to do, what you say you're going to do, because Shishio is 10 steps ahead anyway. You also see a moment of Shishio training where he sets somebody's body ablaze. Now, in the 90s version, it was subject to a lot of censorship back in the day. So just like during the Oniwaban sequence in the first season, how Aoshi, severs their heads so that he can take them and bury them. In the 90s version, you don't see that, just because the gore was a little bit too intense to animate in the anime, I guess. But here, the same thing. In the 90s version, he's just chopping like a punching bag in half, essentially, like a training object. But in this version, he chops a full human being in half. And so that was just I don't think that was a deliberate choice in the 90s version. I think it was just simply due to censorship. But now in 2024, we don't have to worry about that quite as much. So we get to see it as it was intended. And you see a little bit of what Shishio can do, which is not explained yet. And so, like, if you're watching this for the first time and you're wondering, how did he chop a man in half and then set him on fire? Well, you're just going to have to wait to find out. And again, I skipped over it, but the conversation between Aoshi and Okina is a bittersweet one. It is good to see them reunite once again. But of course, Aoshi is very headstrong within his one particular goal. And even Okina says, like, if we lose you to this, if you become nothing more than a slaughterer, then I made the mistake of making you leader of the Oniwaban, and it's my responsibility to take you down. Which, as of yet, Okina has mostly been shown as, the goofy old man archetype, but he is an extremely powerful force to be reckoned with in his own way. The only problem is, of course, being an old man, he is past his prime, whereas Aoshi right now is, youthful, strong, resolved, and developed multiple new techniques to fight Kenshin. So this is going to be a dangerous battle when it takes place. As you'll see in this episode where Sojiro says, we can send some people over to Okina's place and maybe with some torture, yada yada. And Aoshi's like, okay, go ahead and do it. And first of all, Aoshi knows that Okina can handle himself, but also just the fact that Aoshi is like, yeah, go ahead and do it, it shows where he's fallen. And that Okina is right to suspect that he is falling deeper and deeper into that darkness. He knows that Aoshi is going to become a killer, consumed by his own darkness, consumed by that feeling of vengeance that he has inside of him. And he's broken, He really should just go back to the Aoya, go see Masao, go see Okina, and be able to be within that sorrow and sadness of losing his friends. But he is currently incapable of that, and making these ties and alliances with Shishio just is, even though he's not agreeing with Shishio's plan, he's not becoming a part of the Ten Swords, it still kind of shows that the fact that he would even go there, that he would even be there to begin with, is the direction that Aoshi is going. So the next episode is also going to focus a lot on the Aoshi storyline and continuing up with that, and it's going to be a pretty good episode, I hope, especially if the animation style stays with what it felt like in this episode to me. Now, somebody clue me in if you know or if you don't know, because I've been watching these episodes on Crunchyroll, and it said that the Kenshin anime will return in January. Is that wrong? Like, are we going to get a couple weeks break from the series? Is it like a winter break? Or is there going to be an episode next week? I actually don't know, because I assume there's going to be an episode next week, but I did get that little banner on the Crunchyroll thing that said, like, it's going to return on January, I think, 9th or something, which would be a 3-week break. So is that true? Or are we going to get an episode next week? I guess I just have to wait to see. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought about this episode down below. Season 2, Episode 12. What'd you think about the sequence with Kenshin and Kaoru meeting up with one another once again? Also, what did you think about the Aoshi sequence afterwards, and where do you think that's going to go if you are a first-time Kenshin watcher? As always, guys, thanks for watching this video review. I appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. The last Kenshin episode review actually did pretty well. I think it was because of the title of the video, which I didn't plan it that way, but it just did pretty good compared to the other Kenshin reviews. So thank you guys for watching that video. Also, of course, shout out to everybody that sent in a super thanks. I deeply appreciate it. And sorry that this video is up a little bit late, but regardless, I'll see you guys either next week or in January when it returns. Whenever the next episode is, I'll put out a review. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.